my name is Margaret Adele, and welcome to the February channel update. How was February for me, both in life and reading? Well, uh, medically things are holding fairly steady. We did have the big test, but I got a clean bill of health, no surgery needed, so fun for that. However, there is still the debate of whether or not I should go back on meds, and if that will help. I didn't like the side effects, but and then work ways, well, I work in special ed, so that can always be really iffy, and we've had a teacher absent for a long period of time, which makes things even harder, and I've had my schedule and my room assignment changed multiple times over the course of February, so that I think we're just gonna have to accept as standard at this point. But what I really wanted to talk about was my reading. How was reading over the course of February? Well, all of my most toxic reading habits were on display. I told myself that I was going to focus on review books, and I did read more review books than not. Of the 10 books I've read, 6 of them were review books, so I am over half. The thing is that the vast majority of those books were books that I accepted during the month of February. I had a lot of quick turnaround books, which, in one aspect could be seen as a good thing, like look how fast I got them out. But on the other hand, I have books on my backlist from summer of 2021. Now, I have gotten to the point where most of the indie authors that I've worked with before just kind of accept that it's going to be a thing where there's long wait times, but I still feel bad when it gets to be quite that long. Like, more than 6 months is not a good look, and is usually supposed to be the part where I hardcore ask myself if this is a book that I need to DNF or not. However, in some cases, they are both from series that I know I like. It's just that they're very long. I also have a lot of long books on my review list, and that is something my brain will also get into a funk of, where it's like, well, I only read about 100 pages a day, so if I get into this 400 to 500 page book, I won't even be able to read 2 books a week. And I'll kind of fall into that headspace of, well, I should focus on the 300 and below. And that's not helpful when I am choosing books that I'm maybe not as much interested in from a mood reading standpoint, because there are fewer pages. And I especially got caught up in that when I started reading this one review book, which was a dystopian, and I could tell fairly early on that I wasn't really feeling it for whatever reason, probably mood reasons. And I was like, for whatever reason, no, you have to keep going. You have to keep working on this. And I don't know why I did that, because I know my brain. I know I'm a mood reader, and I know that setting myself a hard and fast goal of, you must read this book, never works for me. It's never helpful. It's never going to do what I want it to do. Most of the time, it just means that my reading slows down to a crawl. I inch closer and closer to a slump for no apparent reason. Whereas if I had switched to even one of the longer books that might have been daunting in their 400 to 500 page mark, it could have actually gone easier, because I would have been more invested in it, and maybe even read more than 100 pages a day to get those read. But no, I got fixated on, I can't start another new book. And to be fair, I don't think I've had less than 3 books on my currently reading shelf this entire month. So maybe my brain was like, no, we cannot keep starting new books. But eventually we got things going. Although I am still just holding my head above water when it comes to my review books. And I am trying so hard to fight closing again when I have barely been open for 2 months after being closed for pretty much the majority of 2021. And really, I should just accept it that if I do that, if I close for so much time, when I open again, there's going to be indie authors that have waited who are immediately going to want to send me their works. And I always think that it is so pretentious of me to think like that, to be like, oh, I can't honestly just assume that there are indie authors waiting for me to be open again. But the thing is that I know for a fact that there have been indie authors in the past that have specifically waited for me to be open again, specifically to send me books. So, like, it's not pretentious if I'm basing it on actual things that have happened in the past. And sure enough, over the month of January and into February, there were indie authors that I was working with before, or indie authors that I have interacted with before, who are like, ooh, you're open again, here. So I need to be prepared that there might need to be like a soft open, and then get that under control, and then a bigger open, so that I'm not feeling like I need to close so quickly again. I think I am going to institute a rule that I have instituted before, wherein I will keep accepting books that I genuinely want to read. I don't randomly say yes until I get to 15 books on my list, and then I close and do not open again for anything until I get down to 5 books. I think at this point, telling myself that I should get down to 0 is a lost cause, especially because I am a mood reader, and those last 5 books could be me forcing myself to read something I'm not in the mood for, and therefore giving a review that might be more negative than it would have otherwise been had I waited for the right mood. And a lot of the books that are on my backlist that have been there for a hot minute are authors that I have reviewed before. A lot of them are books that are later on in their series. I think one of the books is like book 5 in its series. And if you know anything about book reviews on BookTube, I mean, they don't do well in general. They are not the most watched BookTube video. I think they're one of the least watched BookTube videos. But the reviews drop, or the views for reviews drop even more the farther on in the series you get, kind of like how Goodreads reviews or Amazon reviews for farther books in the series will have less and less. Basically, once someone has already called off from the first book, they're not going to watch other books from there. But I do have a lot of books that I'm hyped for. Some books that I might low-key be like too hyped for, if that makes sense, only because I know that I've built it up in my head a lot that, oh my gosh, this book is here finally, and I'm low-key afraid that it might disappoint me, or that I've built it up too much. I mean, if you've kept up, you might be able to name the one book in particular I'm afraid of with that. But the good news is with March is that it is the month that has spring break in it for me. So I will have a week off work, which means that I have a lot more time to read. And in the past, I have done like spring break vlogs. I might do some kind of like challenge vlog this year where I double the amount of pages I read every day, 200 instead of 100, and vlog it to kind of get myself to get through more of these books. However, the unhauling, the getting my own TBR has been going really well. I'm sitting somewhere in the 330s on Goodreads right now. And most of it, like I have mentioned in previous videos, is ebooks that I downloaded for free off BookBub, because I do that constantly. And I'm not quite done with it yet. My end goal with the unhauling is to get it under 300, because even then it's like, am I all that super interested, super invested in every one of these hundreds of books that it's still on my mind as a want to read? Because mind you, there are other books that I don't own, you know, the next in a series that I like, that is not on that list. So I really need to go through and weed out what I actually am still highly invested in reading, rather than, well, I don't dislike this, so I guess it can stay. Like, I finally accepted that I'm not going to read any of those Highlander romances that I was hauling off of BookBub so long. Like, I don't think I've read literally a one that I've gotten off of BookBub, and I don't even know how many I've downloaded off there. So I think we just got to give up the ghost on that one. Or like I had a lot of like really, really hard, gritty, straight sci-fis which I had to accept isn't the kind of sci-fi I like. I like queer sci-fi and space operas and kitschy stuff and sci-fi romance. Like, I don't do the evil aliens are here trying to take over the planet. Like, I don't do that. I don't go for that kind of stuff. I don't know why I was trying to convince myself I did. But The Unhauling is doing really well. I don't know how much more of it I'm going to get done because it's one day left of the month as I film this, but you never know. I might become inspired to do work. Regardless, I'm going to continue putting more focus on review books. I went through and I was like, oh, why don't I use the prompts left on my Pop Sugar challenge to pick out the review books that I should read in March. But there's only 3 review books currently on my list that fit Pop Sugar prompts. So that's not going to be very helpful. And I don't really want to do what I've done with March in the past, which is where I do maximum March, and I put a cap on the amount of books I can read to force myself to read the longer books, because I don't have that many that are longer, and I think the doubling the amount of pages I read a day over spring break should probably help incentivize me to read those longer books, because it's easier to read one book for a couple days at 200 pages a day than it is to try to constantly pick new books day after day. So hopefully that'll take care of it. In general, I don't know where I'm at mentally with my year of rest yet. I've gotten better at giving myself a break in certain areas. I've gotten better at just sitting and letting myself be sad about things and not trying to rush myself, to be done with the crying or whatever, when those moments happen. But in general, not as hopeful a month as January was, unfortunately. A little bit of a dip, but who knows? Maybe once the teacher comes back at work, and once I have a spring break, and once I have this, I'm going out on a trip out of town for a weekend to see family and go to a concert. Like, maybe that will all be immensely refreshing for me. Fingers crossed. So thank you for watching my Rambly channel update. I hope next month will be a little bit more optimistic, but this is where we're at right now. And with nothing else to say, I hope you have a wonderful day and a marvelous tomorrow.